Hey there. Today we're taking a first look at VersionX 3.0. As of the recording of this video, it's available as a beta version exclusively from modmore.com. But if you're watching this later in a few weeks or months, it will probably also be available on the standard modx.com provider. If you're unfamiliar with VersionX, it's one of the extras that I do recommend everybody to use sort of on all their sites by default. It's a very simple extra that basically just keeps a copy of everything you change, your resources and your elements, so your templates and your chunks, your snippets, um, with the purpose of if you make a mistake, if someone were to intentionally make something go away, you have a very simple backup. It has been around since 2011, and it's now on its third major release, major rebuild. So the biggest change in 3.0 is how the data is stored. So in version 2.2, the latest version, VersionX basically stores entire copies of the resource or your elements with all the different fields, all the different data that is attached to it. So this means that if you're editing something and you're saving things a lot, which you probably should be, every single time you hit save, you're gonna get a full copy of that resource or of that element in your database. That obviously results in quite big databases. It's not uncommon to see hundreds of megabytes or even many gigabytes worth of historic data. And in the most part, people aren't actually gonna look at it all that much. It's a backup. So hopefully you don't need it. You still want it to be around. But that's one of the things that has always been sort of like an issue where there are no limits on the data storage it can actually use. The benefit of that is that it does give you a complete edit history. But at a certain point, you start to sort of balance the cost of having, gigabytes of data that nobody ever actually looks at versus having that backup. So in 3.0, we're now only storing the changed fields. So when you're editing, for example, a resource and you're only editing the page title or you're only editing the content, that's the only data that it's going to make a copy of. It does still have a complete edit history because every time something changes, it has a copy of that change. So it's able to sort of like iterate over those changes to get you back to a certain point in time. In addition to that, it also merges deltas. So these change fields is what we call a delta. And over time, it can actually combine those together. So I have an example of that. Let's say you've been editing your page title. You've been tweaking it, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to market your services, to explain what you do. So you're saving your resource a lot of times in, say, the span of an hour. At some point in the future, not all of those changes are relevant. So what VersionX 3 will do is it will combine those within a certain time frame into a single change. So rather than having 3 different changes, as you can see here, from about us to our services, and from our services to our promise to you, and from our promise to you to what we can do for you, it sort of removes that middle step and just gives us this change from, okay, within this certain time frame, we went from about us to what we can do for you. So obviously, if you do this consistently, automatically, you're going to get rid of a lot of the noise in the data and really get to the parts that matter. So by default, and right now it's not configurable, but it might become configurable in a future release. Let's say you make a change to something today. You're editing your resource, making all those deltas. A week from now, all the deltas created within 1 hour are going to get smushed together, are going to get combined, are going to get merged. So a week from now, you will not be able to tell the difference or sort of like get to that middle version that's no longer relevant, as long as that was made within the hour. A month from now, any changes on that specific day are going to get combined together. And obviously this is on the field level, so any changes made to your content or your titles, template variables, this is all like on the field level that is going to get combined. So what this means is that even if you have years of data, the further back you go, you lose some of the like the fine details of how you got to a certain point, but you do keep that complete version history. You do keep a full progressive account of how a certain page came to be. The level of detail just gets less over time. Let's take a look at that in action. If we switch to our browser, we've got our MODX 3 installation here. We have our resource, our what we can do for your resource, explaining sort of our services as a web design studio in this example. We can make changes. Perhaps we're not a web design, but we're a web development studio. We might tweak that in the description. The moment we save, VersionX is going to create a new delta, which is automatically showing up in our versions tab. So you can see we have this nice sort of like inline highlighting of the differences on that field. And it only stored the description change. So earlier we changed our titles, we had some hero content that changed. All this is sort of going to show up in like a timeline of changes. Once we have sort of like this data, over time this is going to get combined. So over time, all these page title changes, which were also shown in the slides earlier, this is all going to get smushed together into one before and one after value, basically, because they all happened within the same period of time. Now, if we do want to reverse something, we may have made an inadvertent change, or we don't like it, we can do that in 3 different ways. We can either revert the entire delta. So in this case, it's only one field delta. But if we scroll down, for example, to our initial import, which is on the page 2, or this one, if you added multiple fields at the same time, those are in one sort of like in one delta, in one change set. So then we can revert all of them. It will set the value back from the current value to the new value. We also have the option of undoing any specific field only. So we can say, okay, let's undo this alias change. That's just the one field. We also have the option to revert all fields to this point in time. So what this will do, this button sort of in between deltas, it will iterate over each of those deltas before it. So all the changes since then, and undo them sort of one at a time, layering them until we get back to, this point. And this is also where sort of like merging deltas comes into play, because even though we're sort of like, we're losing that granular level in the middle, we can still revert back to whatever it was before that. We still have enough of history to do that. Right, so with that sort of context of how it looks here, we can also look at the overall manager page for VersionX, which will show all the different deltas that have been created. So a lot of these here are imports. But this will give you a full history of everything across your entire site. One thing that ties into here, and we'll probably work on making this look even better in future versions, is that VersionX is no longer restricted to just the core resources and elements. You will now be able to add support for versioning to any sort of custom extra, third-party extra. And we will make a video about how that works, how to set it up as well in the future. But these are everything will show up sort of in this list. And you will be able to sort of right-click view details to get the history of that resource. So if you do not want to have like the version step on every resource or every element, you can disable that and have sort of like this backend view at your disposal. There is one thing to note here, which is the optimize storage button in the top right. I do recommend setting up the cron job. There is a cron job, which I will put in the description, to automatically merge deltas over time. But you can also click it from here, and that will also process it sort of like on the fly whenever you need it. So that will combine the different deltas to lower your data storage. All right. With that said, let's get back to this. So we already saw how the different deltas get merged. I do want to give a special shout out to the people that made this release possible. We crowdfunded the development of VersionX 3, and these are the amazing people and companies, agencies that contributed to that. So thank you to Lux Median, Quadro, WebIX, Visions, Jens Whitman, Gigi Tso from Sapia River, and Joshua Lokers for their donations, for their support in making this release possible. All right, so that's all we have for now on VersionX 3. If you want to learn more about MODX, be sure to subscribe and visit modmore.com/video for an overview of other videos, as well as some bonus videos with a full and growing catalog of tutorials, explainers, all sort of fun stuff. There's also a video over there. Yeah, I'm pointing it the right direction. All right, have a very good day, and I will hopefully see you on the next video. Bye bye.